you know, when my colleague Elvis Kosgei was talking to Mark Bor, you know, businessman, who was the former Kano chairperson in Uasin Gishu County, he talked about a leader who was more, you know, Maki Bor, sorry. He talked about a leader who was very keen in terms of decision making. He took his time before making any decision. You know, he was telling Elvis how Moi, he kept on pressurizing the president, you know, you need a deputy vice president, you need a deputy vice president. And, you know, Moi operated without a deputy vice president for 14 years. And even when Kenyatta died, when Moi took over, he was supposed to reshuffle the cabinet. But he told the people who are pressurizing him, let's wait first and see what the Mwananchi will make, the decision they'll make after the ballot. Then I will make that cabinet reshuffle.
Yes, absolutely. Moi, I think, before he made, he's a president who took his work very seriously, and before he made any decision, he wanted to be double sure, to double check and to be sure. And I remember, you know, for several times, you know, he stayed without a vice president, and eventually he was able to make a decision. But because I think the position of vice president was very sensitive, so Moi wanted to make sure that the person who sits on that seat is someone who is able to, you know, who's someone who shares his values and his vision you know, for the country. As you remember, Brenda, for more than 10 years, Moi served as the vice president to President Kenyatta. And he did his job very well. He was loyal to President Kenyatta, serving the president, and the president trusted him for that period of time. So here he was. You pressured him to you know, choose a vice president, but he had to take his time, you know, to be able to vet these people and see who was best able to, you know, to sit in that office. Yeah. So I think that is one value. A president who took his work seriously, very seriously. Someone who wakes up early in the morning to make phone calls to the provincial administration, to his cabinet. I'm told that he would even know, you know, in the morning, he would know what is happening in the rural areas. You know, he would even sometimes talk to his people. Even the common man, whom you hardly imagine that Moi would talk to, he was someone who was talking to the common people in the village. You had Mr. Kibord say how they were close, how, you know, they would joke around with Moi, how would even give him advice. So he was a president, people feared him, people respected him, but he was able to reduce himself to the level where he can even eat mahindi with people in the streets.
Yeah, and I just need to make a correction. Actually, it's not Mark Bor, but it's Jackson Kibor, who was talking to my colleague Elvis Kosgei in Eldoret. And, you know, during his leadership, there was that respect for the office of the president.
Absolutely.
And the presidency, the president as a person and the office of the president. And that is not what we're seeing right now, because right now you can see people hurling insults at the president. People don't, you know, respect the presidency.
Yes, absolutely. During the time of Moi, you know, people respected the presidency, and it is because of the stature that he gave that position. You know, we held him in awe. I remember when I was young, when he came to Kuala, you know, my village. That time we were students and we were, you know, lining up the street and, you know, struggling to see him. And the moment he appeared, you know, on top of that classic Mercedes-Benz of his, we were so excited. You can feel your hair rising, and you say, "Oh my God, I saw Moi! Oh my God!" You know, and it was one of those things that the charisma that he had, you know, because as you know, the president is the father of the nation. He's the head of state. You are supposed to hold the imagination of the people. The president should be able to inspire the people to dream. You know, so Moi was able, you know, to inspire the people using his philosophy, the philosophy, Nyaya philosophy of peace, love and unity, asking guys to work hard. I remember even in school, he came up with this 4K club, you know, Kungana, Kujenga, Kusaidia Kenya, to teach Kenyans, you know, the values of hard work. You know that for you to be able to succeed in life, you have to work hard. I remember also, you know, we had the Young Farmers Club in school, teaching about the values of agriculture. And you can see, Brenda, during those days, agriculture was Kenya's, you know, biggest export earner, you know, export earner. And it's as a result of what Moi personally put his energy to. Remember those days, he talked about Momonyoko Udongo, where he would personally be there to help fight the corrosion of, of soil. And that is what we remember Moi with, someone who put his energy, someone who, whenever he said something, he actually put all his energy, and people respected the presidency. But unfortunately nowadays, people, insult the president, they abuse the president on social media, and you can see right now, even within the government, even pulling apart. The president is saying, let's go BBI way. Others saying, we don't want BBI. So what kind of a nation is this that cannot follow, the values, of its leader? And I think it's a lesson that we learned from Moi. Moi taught us that we have to respect the nation, the presidency, the institution is different from the person.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel Juma, the Executive Director at the Global Peace Foundation, talking to us about, the legacy of the president. Now, we've had from Jackson Kibor, a man who worked closely with Daniel Toroitich arap Moi during his leadership as the second president of the Republic of Kenya. Let's now also talk to Burudi Nabwera, a former Lugari member of parliament and also an ambassador, a man who worked really closely also with the former president. And Honorable Nabwera, thank you so much for joining us here on KTN News Center. You worked very closely with, Honorable Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Talk to us about the relationship that you had with this great leader.
Yes, I'm ready to respond.
Mr. Nabwera, you worked very closely, with...
Yes, yes.
All right, talk to us about...
Yes, are you ready?
I am ready. I am ready, Honorable Nabwera. I mean, you worked very closely with the former president. Talk to us about the sort of relationship that you had with him.
Yes, before I knew about the relation I had with him, I would like to begin by how I came to know President Moi. After the election of 1957, we had special elections in Kenya in 1957, and President Moi was elected a member for Rift Valley, the whole of Rift Valley. And then from our side, there was Masinde Muliro, who was elected for North Nyanza. So I came to know President Moi and the late Ronald Ngala through Masinde Muliro, when they are members of the Legislative Council from 1957. And by the time I was in London, President Moi and Ronald Ngala used to stay at a hotel in London, which was reasonably cheap, and where we as students, Kenyan students who were in London, used to go and meet them when they were attending the Lancaster conferences. So this is how I came to know President Moi. So by the time they were elected to Parliament in '63 now, I already knew President Moi and Ronald Ngala through Masinde Muliro. But my contacts with the President Moi as the President of the Republic of Kenya started when I was a member for Lugari, and he appointed me as one of his ministers. The President Moi I know, and the President Moi I remember, and with the rest of my life, is somebody who had three important qualities. One, President Moi was a very religious person, and his life was guided by Christianity. I had an opportunity, I'm going to church with him one day, and he lent me his Bible, the copy of his Bible to look at. And when I had read where the sermon was from, I tried to take right from the Old Testament, the New Testament, because he had read the Bible through many times, and his life was guided by his Christian beliefs and principles. Whatever he did, he tried to be fair to as much as he could. So I think President Moi, his life has been led by his beliefs in Christianity, and I think as we are speaking now, he is with his Maker. So the second quality that I noticed in President Moi was that he was somebody who was a disciplinarian. He believed in guided leadership, and he had, for being a member of his government, gave me the insights of how he worked. After the 1982 attempted coup, I don't think that President Moi ever had an advisor in whom he believed completely. I think whatever advice a minister was giving to him, he would check that against his other sources of information, and he would make up his mind on his own. I don't think I'll be wrong in saying that up to the time he's going to grave, he had just carried on like that. After the time of his death, he had carried on deciding. He was a very well-informed president. He got his information from special France, but he also had friends all over the country and the different ethnic groups. The third quality I remember about President Moi is that when he appointed his government, his cabinet, and his senior officials, he wanted the nature of the structure of his government to reflect Kenya, the composition of Kenya. He appointed his cabinet people from different ethnic groups. If I remember, if you look at the structure of his cabinet and that of Mzee Kenyatta, he followed a bit of Mzee Kenyatta, but he went further. For example, we as a Luhya community used to have very many ministers in President Moi's cabinet. I think we've had the highest number of cabinet ministers under President Moi. So he made sure that he covered the whole country. And in line with that, he also had his own friends from various ethnic groups. So as I said, that President Moi was unique in the sense that he collected info. He ruled the country firmly, but with the consent of the people. And he was popular with the people. I think if he was the one, if the Constitution had allowed him to run in 2002, maybe he would still have given the opposition a very difficult time to win because he was popular. And finally, what I wish to remember about President Moi was that he was a very humble person. He could be firm and ruthless, but he did not like creating enmity. After you had disagreed and you had to come together, things will be as normal as they possibly could be. So it is on this note that I would like to send my condolences to the family of our president, our beloved president, with whom I worked very closely, and we have remained friends until his end.
All right, and Honorable Nabwera, I mean, Honorable Nabwera, Moi's impact has gone beyond the borders. You know, people of Sudan can identify with the leadership of the president because he tried to bring peace there. People of Rwanda can identify, you know, with the legacy that he's left there. And it is something that has led to the international leaders, you know, Honorable Nabwera, to send messages of condolence to the family, the country, the friends, and the relative. So my question is, you know, that impact that has been left by, you know, the former president, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, you know, the impact being felt beyond our borders. What does it tell, you know, our African leaders?
Well, it says that you have said the qualities of Moi tell African leaders that when you are in charge, you should take care of your country, but all the time bear in mind that you are dealing with the human beings who come from different backgrounds, and you should take care of the interest. In the case of Kenya, of all the entire Kenya nation, the 42 ethnic groups that constitute Kenya should be taken into consideration. And we should follow Moi's nyayo. Any president coming who wants to make sure that Kenya is united, he should try as much as possible to copy what Moi was doing.
And Honorable Nabwera, there is a clip that we have been playing here on KTN News, about the president talking about, Honorable, the late President Daniel Arap Moi talking about leadership, leaving a legacy. And he said it in Swahili. I may try to, paraphrase what he said. He said that sisi hapa Afrika tunajua kuna viongozi wengine, marais wengine hawataki kuacha uongozi, lakini mimi nitawacha uongozi. And we saw that he did that, with a whole heart when he handed over the mantle of the presidency to President, Mwai Kibaki in 2002. And yet we are seeing within the African continent, there are some, African presidents who really don't want to leave, leadership.
Now we are going through a period in Africa. We are going through a period in Africa. There are African countries like Uganda, where the president doesn't want he wants to remain their president for life. And then, but there are also other countries like Ghana now, Botswana. We have a number of, now Kenya has joined that league, where the president is asked to do two terms. And when he finished, so Moi saw that coming, and is the one he preferred. After we had said the limit would be 2 terms, he did his 2 terms, 92 to 97, 97 to 2002, and he quit. So the advice he was giving his colleagues is that when it comes to your turn, you should vacate and let somebody else take over. Do your best. In the case of Kenya, it's now 10 years. And I hope that we shall continue along that path in Kenya, every president coming in after 10 years. And in 10 years' time, you should have done your bit and your best. If you have not achieved much, it's your own problem.
Nabwera, let's talk about the style, the leadership style of President, Daniel Arap Moi in connection with the leadership style that we're seeing right now.
Well, you can never get two people having the same style. It is, as I've said, like any future president for Kenya should try as much as possible and look at the way Mzee Jomo Kenyatta ran the country, see the way President Moi ran the country, and the way President Kibaki ran the country. And each one of those 3 presidents, each one has got one major contribution that they made that is outstanding. Like in the case of President Kibaki, he was best at reviving the economy. And I hope that the president now should try and copy that and revive our economy. He was Kibaki's Minister for Finance, and he should just go back and even talk to President Kibaki so that he can run our economy and revive Kenya's economy the way President Kibaki did it. There's a lot of positiveness in what President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta did. Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was very firm in his decisions. And he would never, once he had made his decision, if the decision is affected you negatively, it was your problem. But otherwise, he made decisions, and he also applied the question of appointing his government from all the ethnic groups from all over the country. I say when I was appointed an ambassador, at that time he appointed 6 ambassadors, and one was from a different ethnic group. He didn't appoint all the 6 ambassadors from one or 2 ethnic groups. So there is a lot to be learned from what President Jomo Kenyatta did, what President Kibaki did, and what President Moi did. And for President Moi, his was unique because he was taking over from a very popular president, the founding father of this nation.
All right, and let's talk about your experience as the Secretary General of the ruling party, during that time, KANU, and talk to us about the sort of relationship you had with your party members and the party leader, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, the former president, because right now we're seeing a lot of insubordination, amongst party members between the party leadership and the politicians.
Now we don't have a party. Because when Moi took over from Mzee Kenyatta, he took over, Mzee Kenyatta had not paid enough attention to KANU as a party. He used the provincial administration. He used the provincial commissioners and district commissioners to organize the country. When President Moi took over, and there was this attempted coup, after that, he decided to reorganize the party and make it powerful. So in the reorganization, he wanted the government to concentrate on running the affairs of the state, but organizing and restructuring the thinking of and making the policies that the government would apply was transferred to the party. So in the reorganization of KANU, Moi established a committee, apart from the normal officials of the party, he himself as president, and the President Kibaki as his vice president. He reorganized the party and created a committee within the party that was to look after the discipline, to make sure that the party was run along strict lines and it was able to formulate policies. It is this committee of the party that was under the chairmanship of the late Okika Mayo that was in charge of policy making. And on that committee you had the cabinet ministers, you had the KANU officials from the branches, and the committee reported directly to the president. Under the reorganized party, the polling stations were members of the polling station were in charge of each polling station. The committee had a committee of officials, and then the 20 delegates were in charge of. So if we are going to elections, it is that committee that organized and was in charge of the. So there was discipline within the party, and the party insisted on members being straight and follow the directions of the party.
All right.
So it became so severe. It became so severe, and when people began complaining and appealed to the president, he himself changed his mind and disbanded it even before we had completed one term, 5 years.
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable Burudi Nabwera, who's a former member of parliament of Lugari and also a former ambassador, and who worked very closely with former President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Taking us to another commercial break here on KTN News Center. But keep it KTN News for much more news making the headlines.